Welcome back to the show. Today I want to share some thoughts with you on You Are So Strong. You are so strong. No, I'm not talking about working out. I'm not talking about exercising. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about mentally strong. Let me kind of set the scene with telling you about or sharing with you that there's 4 different types of people in the world. You think, John, there's billions of people. Well, yeah, there's billions of people. But generally speaking, again, that's a general term, that there's only really about 4 types of people. And I want to share the strengths of those 4 types of people. And then I want to share some thoughts with you from Marcus Buckingham's book, Go Put Your Strengths to Work. But I need to set the scene about those strengths in each of the 4 types of people so you can know in context what I want to share from Marcus Buckingham's book. The first 2 types of people are the extroverts. The extroverts are the outgoing people. The first one I want to share is called the choleric. The choleric temperament is a very forthright, very aggressive, a very individual who believes that his or her way is the right way. They are a leader. They're one who doesn't let anything get in their way at all. They believe that they can accomplish anything they want in life. That's the choleric. That's the simple understanding of that temperament. Then you have the sanguine, S-A-N-G-U-I-N-E. The sanguine temperament is a bunch of individuals who are also outgoing. They're extroverts. But they tend to want to have fun way more than they want to work. They know a lot of people, but they don't know a whole lot about those people, but they're very bubbly. They're very, very gregarious, if you want to look at it that way. They love having fun. They love laughing. They do. They just really, really want to have fun. They'll get work done, but they want to have fun doing it. Whereas the choleric doesn't care if it's fun. They know that they are going to get the job done. Then you have the introverts. So you have 2 characteristics of the extroverts, then you have the introverts. And the first of the 2 introvert categories are the phlegmatics, P-H-L-E-G-M-A-T-I-C, phlegmatic. That person is very shy, very withdrawn. However, they're very detail-oriented. If you want somebody to handle the details in the background and know that those details are going to be done correctly, you want a phlegmatic on your team. Let me give an example. An accountant would be an example of a phlegmatic. An engineer would be an example of a phlegmatic. Again, very, very detail-oriented. They care deeply about people, but you really wouldn't know it looking at them. You can be with them for decades and not know that they have deep feelings for you because they're that shy. They're that, they don't really share their feelings nearly as much as the extroverts do that are the choleric and the sanguine. Then you have the melancholy. That's another introvert type of person. They're very artistic. Many of them are musical. They don't know as many people as the sanguine, but they know a lot more about those people. They're very emotional people. They will put themselves out 100% of the time for everybody around them. So again, you have the extroverts, the 2 extrovert groups, then you have the 2 introvert groups. So let me kind of jump into Marcus Buckingham's book, Go Put Your Strengths to Work. Before I get there, let me just share an idea, a concept that took me a number of years to get through my head. And that is, a lot of people spend, and I use the word intentionally, spend a lot of time trying to get better at areas where they're weak, instead of investing, appropriate word, investing an enormous amount of time building up areas where they're strong. Think about that a minute. There was a long time in my life that I tried to build upon or build on areas that I'm weak instead of building on areas where I had some tendency to be strong in. Think about that in your own life. So let me jump into Marcus Buckingham's book, Go Put Your Strengths to Work. He says this: only 17% of the workforce believe they use all their strengths on a job. 17% only they believe that they use their strengths on the job. Think about that. Think about the group of people that you work with. Only 17, less than 2 out of 10 believe that they're really maximizing their strengths. He says this: ask a nationally representative sample of the workforce how often they feel an emotional high at work, a sure sign that they're playing on their strength. They said more than half of them believe only about once a week. He says on high performance teams, people say they call upon their strengths more than 75% of the time. Instead, he says we simply need to learn how to take our existing job each week and reshape it around our strengths. Let me just stop there for just a minute. I've been trying to do this for a number of years, to educate employers on finding the strengths of each individual employee and placing those employees in areas in the company where they're strong, or the strongest, I should say. Because how many people do you work with and have worked with that would rather do something else in the company because they're stronger at it, or they would find it more fun, or they would find it more attractive? He goes on to say, simply put, we need to ditch the typical pull approach to work and replace it with a push discipline. Pull looks like this: somebody else tells you what's expected of you, whereas the push discipline looks very different, he says. It begins with you taking responsibility for identifying your own strengths and weaknesses, and then take a stand for them. Most of us, don't even categorize what our strengths are. We haven't made a list yet, still, of what your strengths are. Imagine if you took a half an hour and listed down what your strengths are, and then, I think better than that is ask people that you know and trust to tell you what they think your strengths are. Because sometimes there are people around you that can see things in you that you can't see in yourself. I can't see what's going on behind me because I don't have eyes behind my head. However, there are people in my life that can see what's going on around me. Think about the people in your own life that you know and trust that can see potential in you, that can see strengths in you that maybe you can't see in yourself. I shared this story on episodes before. I had lunch with a friend of mine named Paul, and he says, John, you need to try this particular opportunity. I said, Paul, I can't do that because this reason, this reason, this reason. In essence, Paul was saying, John, I know you can do this. Why don't you at least attempt it? And now, 2 years almost later, I'm so glad that I followed Paul's advice because I'm doing something that I really enjoy doing. So again, Marcus Buckingham says, the push discipline looks very different. It begins with you taking responsibility for identifying your own strengths and weaknesses. He says, you do know your strengths. It is your responsibility to know how to push each week. Now, I'm not suggesting that you're going to know your strengths right off the bat. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you take the time, you invest the time to list your strengths, you're going to find opportunities that can merge into those strengths that you haven't seen before. So here's what Marcus Buckingham says. He says you have to bust the myths. He says capitalizing on your strengths is the best way to compete. Again, capitalizing on your strengths is the best way to compete. He says, free your strengths. He says, learn how to volunteer your strengths to the team. The smartest and the most successful people I know, they delegate their weaknesses so they can invest more time in areas where they're strong. Think about that in your own life. What areas in your life can you delegate to somebody else that you don't need to be doing because that's not an area of your strength? In fact, it drains you. weakens you when you have to do that. Instead of doing something that you enjoy, that strengthens you, that not only it strengthens you, but it strengthens the other people around you, because the energy that goes along with what you're doing, it just exudes onto everybody else. Whereas doing things that you really don't like doing and it really weakens you, it shows around everybody, right? He says this, he says, stop your weaknesses. He says, learn the best strategies from lessening the impact of your weaknesses on the team. He says, speak up. Master the art of talking about your strengths without bragging and your weaknesses without whining. Have you ever chosen to take an opportunity to talk to your boss, your leader, your manager, about areas that you would like to be involved in because that gives you the most satisfaction, and very candidly, you're really good at it? Don't you think that your manager, your employer would probably want somebody in a position, or at least to influence a position that they're really good at? He says this, at work, the most common situations in which you should have my strengths and weaknesses, he says, in that conversation, is how are we going to divide up the work? So think about the times when your manager has come to you and given you a task that is not something that you're really strong in. Have you ever spoken up and said, boss, I would rather be involved in this part because I'm really good at that, and here's why. The smart manager or the smart leader will tap into that strength and then allow you to blossom and to do things that you're really good at. Marcus Buckingham says this. He says there's several more myths that we need to look at. He says, as you grow, your personality changes. He says, 60% of us believe that this is true. Think about that in your own life. Look back just 10 years. Look back 20 years. Has your personality really changed? How many times haven't you taken the time to look for opportunities that allows the good side of your personality to blossom? There's a lot of people out there that are making a lot of money and are very successful because they've tapped into that little tiny sliver of a skill set. Think about that a minute. You think all these rich people are really good at everything. I thought that for a long time. I really thought that these really successful people must be great at everything, man. They were born with the right genes and they were born with all these great skill sets. But that's not the case at all. They're really only good at a couple things. I know somebody right now, I'm not going to mention his name, who is really good at his job. I mean, really good. Successful, retired now, done extremely well, very much respected. But when it comes to doing some of the simplest things, maybe a home improvement project or something resembling that, it's not a pretty picture at all. And guess what? That's okay. I mean, for a long time, I was ashamed that I wasn't very handy. Honestly, I thought, all guys are supposed to be handy. It's part of their genome that when you pop out of your mom, if you're a male, you're supposed to be able to fix everything and do everything right because that's what men do. It took me a couple decades to realize that I don't have to be good at fixing things because I'm better at doing other things. So I delegate that to somebody else. My wife, honestly, she's really, really, really good at fixing things. So she does most of that. Just saying that is humiliating. Think about that, what I just said. Yeah, it's humiliating. It's embarrassing because society says that guys are supposed to be able to do everything perfectly. Think about that in your own world, in your own life, in your own circle, in your own tribe. How you are living a life based on the opinion of society instead of tapping into your own uniqueness, your own strengths, your own talents, your own sliver of expertise that not everybody has around you, that only you have, that you can bring light into their world as a result of your narrow window of being really good at certain things. Marcus Buckingham says, you will grow most in areas of your strengths. That's true, but you're going to have to magnify those strengths. You're going to have to let the world know that you're really strong in certain areas, and that just doesn't happen by itself. I was at the gym recently, and There's a gentleman there next to me on the bench that I hadn't met before, and he was looked to be a lot stronger than me. So I tapped into his wisdom, into his knowledge to say, I'm struggling in this area, how do you do this? And for moments, he gave me some tips and some ideas that enabled me to change and to critique just a couple things to help me in what I was doing to get stronger in certain areas. I'm wondering if you would tap into the strengths of other people, because I have found that people that are strong in certain areas have no problem sharing information about their strengths. They're not hoarders about it. They don't keep it secret. They don't try to hide it. They're willing to share it with somebody who's genuinely interested in getting better. It seems that people, at least in my world, it seems that people who have become successful can spot somebody who's really trying to be successful. Let me share a story. Many years ago, I was working in a particular office in a particular business, and there were a couple of people there that were struggling. They were not as educated as most people around them, but they had a work ethic that was extraordinary. They would work all crazy hours, and they would consistently get results that the people that were slightly above average, that were educated, didn't achieve. And I tapped into their knowledge. You would think, why would I tap into their knowledge when they were uneducated? Well, I'm not suggesting that uneducated people don't have knowledge. I'm saying that they had a certain work habit. In fact, Jim Rohn said that you make up, how do you say it? You make up in skill by how hard you work. And that's not exactly how he said it. But in other words, you can exceed everybody else in your circle if you outwork them many times, and then you can tap into the knowledge and the wisdom of other people and sometimes make some just slight adjustments. Years ago, I was taking piano classes by a lady named Phyllis Davis. And I still play the piano, but there were certain parts of learning how to play the piano when I was 11 and 12 years old, 13 years old, was not very fun. So she tried to teach me to change some things and to make some modifications on how I was playing the piano, and I was really bucking against her advice. So she says, John, if you do this little thing, it's called an inversion. If you do this inversion, it's going to make your job playing the piano a whole lot easier, and it's going to sound a lot more smooth. So her example of her explanation, rather, of why she was getting me to make some changes in how I was playing created a desire for me to get better and to play more fluidly. There are some people that you need to place in your life that will question what you're doing and how you're doing it. Think about that a minute. I'll say it again. There are some people in your life that you need to place in your life that will question how you're doing it and why you're doing it. The best of the best, the professionals, the best in every field do exactly that. Whether you're a plumber, whether you're a magician, whether you're the President of the United States, or whether you're a CEO or a small business owner, they surround them, the smart ones I should say, they surround themselves with people who question what they're doing, how they're doing it, and then critiquing them to bring out more of their strength so that their creativity can shine in ways that it has not been able to shine before. Back to Marcus Buckingham. He says, a good team member deliberately volunteers his or her strengths to the team most of the time. How many people have you worked with that have come alongside you outside of their own role that they're being paid for to help you complete a project or to start a project or to make some changes in a project, because they see what you're doing from across the room or from across the office and say, I can help them if they listen to my advice and just make a couple changes, things are going to go much better. I'm sure you've had at least one person in your career that has done that for you. Maybe you can do that for other people when you tap into your own strengths. Marcus Buckingham says this: strengths such as these are made up in 3 different ingredients. Talents, such as empathy, assertiveness, and competitiveness. Skills, such as steps involved in giving injections. And number 3, knowledge, such as which dosage is correct for a particular patient or who is your most dangerous competitor in the marketplace. Again, talents, skills, and knowledge. And for some of us who are really good at certain things, it is effortless for us to share an idea or a concept because we've been doing it for so long. And by the way, there are also people in your circle that, or if not, should be in your circle, that it would be effortless for them to share advice and skills and knowledge to help you get better in your life. But you need to have those people, you need to invite those people into your life in order to do that, in order to leverage their strengths for your own benefit, and then you leverage your strengths for their benefit. He says there's several signs of strengths. Number 1, instinct. You can't quite articulate why, but you find yourself drawn to certain activities repeatedly. Let me share a little secret about me that you might not know. I told you moments ago I play the piano. I've played the piano for a long time. But I play by ear. I don't read notes. Well, more than 5 or 6 notes. I can't. If you put a piece of music in front of me and asked me to play it, I couldn't play it. But if I heard it once or twice, depending on the song and the music, I could probably pick it up pretty quickly. There are people I know that are in my circle, that are in my tribe, that their minds are they just explode because they don't understand how I can hear a piece of music and within a short amount of time play most of it, if not all of it. I can't tell you how that happens. I can't tell you why that happens. Maybe it's in my genes. I think my grandmother played by ear. But that's an innate talent that I must have, that other people wish they had. And very candidly, I wish that I would have had the discipline to learn to read notes, that I could literally play any piece of music from sight. So let me go back to what Marcus Buckingham said here, that there are some people who have an instinct to do certain things that they can't necessarily explain. And for you and I to ignore that instinct in other people, we're losing an opportunity to leverage all that wisdom for our benefit. I've been in conversations with a very famous individual, I'm not going to name his name, that is assisting me in a certain area of my life that I have attempted over 2,000 times. No exaggeration whatsoever. I'll say it again. I've attempted this particular goal over 2,000 times and I haven't succeeded. This individual saw me struggling to achieve a particular goal, I'm not going to name the goal, and has stepped in and says, I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to use my instinct. I'm going to use my talent. I'm going to use my strengths, my contacts to help you achieve that goal. I wonder if you understand the totality of and the benefit of that you have instincts and strengths that some people are craving to have in their lives. Think about that a minute. The stuff that you've gone through in your life, you have developed strengths, you've developed talents, you've developed instincts that some people who haven't gone through what you've gone through can't imagine having. You have it because you've gone through certain things, you've read certain things, you've worked around certain people that only you can see. Let me give you an example. I'm colorblind in certain colors. Blue and greens are not so good with me. When I take almost every colorblind test I take, I fail miserably because I can't see certain things. No matter how hard I try, I squint, I try to fake it. I can't see it. And my wife's not colorblind at all. She says, you mean you can't see that? I says, no, I can't see. There's something there because I can't see it. I'm colorblind. Well, I wonder how many times that you have ignored people in your life who can see certain things that you can't see, and you took their advice as criticism instead of them trying to help you grow and to help you blossom. I'm asking you today to not only to tap into your own strengths and to identify those strengths, but also to leverage the strengths of other people in your life that can help you get so much farther faster if you will sit at their feet and learn from them. Because they have tons of ideas that they can share with you, but you have to be willing to accept those ideas. So I'm hoping this show will illustrate to you in a variety of ways that you are stronger than you think you are. But you have to design your life in such a way that you can leverage those strengths after you identify those strengths. My name is John Carver. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back real soon.